Hello everyone! I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today we are going to talk about A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. So this particular book was published in the 1940s, and this was actually a book that was a part of my summer reading list when I was in high school. And I just really enjoyed this book, and y'all, she is a chonky book, all right? This is a pretty hefty book, and I just absolutely ate it up when I was in high school. Like, I basically would buy the entire summer reading list and just plow through it. And unfortunately, my high school reading lists were so big that I oftentimes was still reading the books during the school year. So I got in trouble a lot for reading in class, and this is one that I distinctly remember that I was reading in class and got in trouble for. I was hooked. I just needed to know what happened next. I will say that this is a story that isn't particularly super active. There isn't a lot of adventure aspects to it. It's more so that it is interpersonal relationships between people, and it's just so interesting to see how things are going to unfold next. What the meat and potatoes of this book is it is about a young girl named Frances Nolan, also known as Francie, and she lives in a rundown apartment in Brooklyn, New York. And this is during the time period when you had those families that were immigrating to the United States and going through Ellis Island and then settling into these little neighborhoods in New York and other various places on the East Coast. And so this is very much about immigrants and first-generation families finding their way, living in the early days of the United States as industrialized and set a true urban setting. This is when they first started having a lot of those really condensed neighborhoods with lots of large apartment complexes and just a lot of kids running in the streets and a lot of factory workers, all that kind of setting. And so Francie is the daughter of a pair of poor immigrant-born parents who are doing their best to just make it in New York, just to scrape by, keep their children fed, and that whole idea of putting everything they have into helping their children to live better lives than they do. It's very interesting to see the arc because this book basically covers Francie's entire life. You start with her being a young child all the way up to her being an adult and then her having a family of her own. And so what's really interesting about this is just seeing all of the different relationships that she has going through these different parts of life, being a child, being a teenager, being a young adult, being an adult, being an older woman, and how the world is also changing around her as she gets older. Is that there's a lot of things that are changing rapidly during this time period where goalposts are being moved. There's more rights for some people, fewer rights for other people. There's more opportunities in certain avenues and fewer opportunities in other avenues, and just seeing how all of that, whether it works in her favor or it stacks against her, that's where I just need to read one more chapter. I just need to read one more chapter and find out what's happening, where that intensity of reading I gobbled this book, y'all, because it just was so interesting to be like, well, what's going to happen to her next kind of thing. Her priorities as a child are gathering effectively trash in the alleyways and the streets with her brother so that they can then take it to the local scrapper so that then they can get money for recyclables such as paper and cans and glass and things like that. And it's very much established that it's like they've been doing this for a long time. They know the ins and outs of it and all that. And this is how they get their penny candy money. So this is effectively their allowance. This is how they are able to buy things that they want to buy, is they go and spend the whole afternoon collecting trash, and then they take it to the scrapper, and then they get some literal pennies, and then they go to the candy store and trade in their pennies for some candy. And a scene that really stuck out to me when I was first reading this is that Francie talks about that she, instead of being like the other children who try to get as many penny candies as they can, so she decides instead to put together all of her pennies, she has 5, and get a nickel candy. She's very excited about it. This idea of that this is a luxury, having this nickel candy instead of a penny candy, that it's this candy that costs 5 cents rather than 1 cent. That right off the bat really grounded me in like what kind of setting we're dealing with here, that paying a nickel for a singular piece of candy is really special, that we are excited about this luxury that we're about to enjoy. That this is more special than penny candy, which in the past, she's always gone the route of getting as many penny candies as possible, whereas now, we're going to get the special candy. And seeing the things that Francie and her family find to be luxuries, such as another one is that their coffee morning routine is also a luxury, in that the parents give them like toast and a cup of coffee for breakfast. And so Franny likes to put her little bit of cream that she gets for the day into her coffee, and she likes to watch it change color and sit there and smell it and enjoy it, but she doesn't like it. She doesn't want to drink it. And so when she's done enjoying the aroma of her coffee and enjoying watching the cream be mixed into the coffee to make it this beautiful caramel color, she then dumps it in the sink. And her dad hates this. He hates this. He's like, why are you letting her waste this coffee? And the mother explains to him, like, this is her one treat that she gets to have, is that her luxury is to waste the coffee, that she can sit there and enjoy it and then not drink it and dump it out. And I feel like it just really showcases just the time period, the snapshot of the socioeconomics that we're dealing with these characters. And I just found it fascinating, y'all, because when I was in high school, I had learned all about Ellis Island and the immigrants and poverty and things like that in years prior to reading this book. But having it put in that, like, just absolutely granular snapshot of tiny luxuries in an individual person's day, I feel like is where it really resonated with me, what poverty looks like and what life for these immigrants really looked like. And this book just absolutely just goes hard on highlighting that, and just highlighting all of the inequality and highlighting the inequality between different types of people, the Irish and the Italians and the African Americans and the Jews, just like highlighting how there's just all of these different factions of people and how they're all treated and how they treat each other. And then, of course, how the WASPs, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, treat everyone, which is, spoiler alert, terrible. Just seeing all these different power struggles and power dynamics at play, I feel like this did so much heavy lifting for really truly teaching me about what that time period was like than any of the history books that I read in school about Ellis Island and about the immigrant experience and all of that. I feel like this book does a really good job of illustrating all that, as well as I feel like it does a good job of it without it being tiresome, without it being preachy, and also having a satisfying ending. That it isn't, oh, and then everybody died and it was terrible, the end. Like, you know, there are sad parts and there are bad parts, but ultimately it gives you a satisfying ending, which I am a big fan of. I do not like stories where it's just like, everybody died and it was terrible, the end. Like, I hate stories like that. So I highly recommend this book, y'all. It is a really fantastic read. I think especially in this day and age, it is so important to read historical pieces like this to get a better understanding of what it's like to live outside of our own bubble, to see, like, what does the world look like to someone who is just so radically different from ourselves, and being able to look at that with understanding and empathy and humanization, especially in today's world where they're trying so hard to divide us and see each other as other. I feel like this does a really good job of combating that. So I highly recommend this book, y'all. I know it's intimidating with how chonky she is, but y'all, it goes quick. You're gonna be like getting close to the end and you're gonna be like, that's it? There's no more book? Like, that's how I was. I was like, what do you mean there's no more book? It is just beautifully written, y'all. It's really good. It is definitely a page turner. I highly, highly recommend this book. I want to thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.